Mm. If someone were to break into your house armed with, let's say, a knife or even a gun of his or her own, what would you do? You're going to want to protect yourself, right? Well, how can you do that without guns in your house? The criminal isn't going to say, oh, I guess this is a gun-free zone, I better not commit this crime. No, life doesn't work that way. The armed person is going to be happy to break in and take your things or worse. This is just like shooting fish in a barrel. They can't defend themselves in any way. Yet it has been proven many times that owning a gun will protect yourself and others. Also, using the gun properly will, without a doubt, save lives. You may know many people who own and do not own guns. Hopefully, you are one of the owners of a gun or many guns. You are already that much safer than your non gun owning neighbors if you do own guns. Today, I would like to talk to you about three things. First, the need of owning your own guns. Secondly, why owning guns is the best medicine for crime and tyrannical governments. And thirdly, I'd like to talk to you today about how your family, neighbors, community, and even nation can benefit from the proper ownership of guns. I'll begin by telling you about the need to own guns. Around the world, there are many atrocities committed by criminals of all kinds. Criminals that intend on doing whatever that they may deem necessary for themselves or their own organization or groups. Again, criminals can be a creepy character in a neighborhood robbing old ladies in dark alleys. It can also be overpowering tyrannical political governments, so look out. With this known, we all know of such atrocities that have happened throughout our nation and around the world, when some individuals attack innocent lives with a gun or other weapons. There has been times throughout history that not owning a means protection has let many tyrannical governments do atrocious things to their own citizens and even let evil individuals hurt many innocent people. Moments in history include the Aurora, Colorado theater attack in 2012 and also the communist dictatorship of the Mao Dynasty in China. These problems are what gun ownership, especially the Second Amendment in the United States, is for. The problem is that there is a lack of knowledge in some individuals that do not understand that a right to bear arms is a right to life. Understanding that gun ownership with proper handling and situational reasoning for usage is needed for all citizens. There's also a lack in understanding that this right given to us by our forefathers was literally to defend ourselves by any form of attack on our life, liberty, and our many other rights. The need to know that gun ownership is a difference in protecting one's property, family, friends, community, and nation from foreign and domestic attacks or other many forms of any harm. Individuals have a natural right to self-preservation. In return, the community understands to protect all of its members, not only against private violence, but also against governmental oppression. You can choose to not own a gun also. It is in one's rights to do so. But the likelihood of survival without a gun of one's own only lessens one's possibility of survival in cases of a government takeover or even a home invasion. Like in many cases, including Nazi Germany when Hitler himself advocated for gun confiscation, stating, "The most foolish mistake we could possibly make would be to allow the subject races to possess arms. History shows that all conquerors who have allowed their subject races to carry arms have prepared their own downfall by doing so. Closing quotes. This is the problem that citizens face, and this is the reason to become a gun owner. When law-abiding citizens become gun owners, which is in their rights to do at any point in time as they wish, they become another step in stopping crime and other antics of evil doing. This is knowing that guns prevent an estimated 2.5 million crimes a year, or 6,849 crimes every day. That's a good bit. Most often, the gun is never fired and no bloodshed is shed. There is much more reasoning on how guns for citizens is a deterrent for criminal activities. Usually the gun is rarely fired. Mostly brandishing the weapon is more than enough to scare a perp away. People defend themselves 235,700 times each year with guns alone. For every year, 400,000 life-threatening violent crimes are prevented using firearms. The number of times per year an American uses a firearm to deter a home invasion alone is 498,000. Within that number, 83.5% of successful gun defenses in which the attacker either threatened or used force first proves that guns are very well suited for self-defense. You are far more likely to survive violent assaults if you defend yourself with a gun. Understanding that your chances of survival go up when attacked when you own your own gun. 60% of convicted felons admitted that they avoided committing crimes when they knew the victim was armed. And 40% of convicted felons admitted that they avoided committing crimes when they thought the victim might be armed. The purpose of the Second Amendment and gun ownership was to affirm the people's right to keep and bear arms and to create a state militia against the possibility of the federal government's hostility toward the militia and the citizens. With the understanding of why the need of a gun ownership and how it deters crime, the visualization of this presentation is next. Widespread defensive gun ownership benefits a society as a whole by deterring burglars from entering occupied premises and by deterring confrontational offenses altogether by an unknown proportion of criminals who might otherwise be attracted by the immediate profitability of robbery and many other crimes. Even when criminals are not so deterred, widespread gun ownership may frighten them sufficiently enough to reduce the overall number of such offenses. With gun ownership, it is less likely a government will intervene on the destruction of its own citizens. It's even a deterrent for outside invasions, being that there are more than 393 million civilian-owned firearms in the houses of the United States, or enough for every man, woman, and child to own one, and still have 67 million guns left over. This number in itself would be a formidable opponent many of our nation's enemies would not dare to pressure. The benefits of your nation is that it is protected just for being armed to the teeth. You as an individual are now able to protect yourself, others, be it your family, friends, and community, and let alone as you understand the pressing need to own your own gun, the more it makes sense that this ownership of guns will thoroughly make sure you are safe from all forms of attacks on yourself and your family and friends. In summary, the understanding that gun ownership is a need of self-preservation of life and liberty, not only for yourself, but for your family, friends, and your own nation. you will understand that no criminal nor tyrannical government will ever harm you or what is yours without a good pushback from yourself and other gun-owning law-abiding citizens. Gun ownership will keep you and your family and friends, neighbors and communities in your nation safe from foreign and domestic attacks. It is important to understand with becoming a gun owner, you become a part of a law-abiding force in a nation that swore to uphold its own rights for all the citizens of a nation to protect itself from the inside out. In closing, I leave you with a quote from the former yet deceased President of the United States, John F. Kennedy. By calling attention to a well-regulated militia, the security of the nation, and the right of each citizen to keep and bear arms, our founding fathers recognized the essentially civilian nature of our economy. Although it is extremely unlikely that the fears of governmental tyranny which gave rise to the Second Amendment will ever be a major danger to our nation, the amendment still remains as an important declaration of our basic civilian-military relationships, in which every citizen must be ready to participate in the defense of his country. For that reason, I believe the Second Amendment will always be important. Closing quotations. So with that, I suggest buying your own guns and having a great night. Thank you.